Alright, today we're going to talk about cylinders, both the surface area and the volume of cylinders. So a cylinder is a little tougher to figure out when you're talking about surface area. Volume is easy, so we'll get to that in a second. However, when you look at the surface area of a cylinder, all of the prisms that we talked about all had rectangles on the side, right? So we just broke it apart into all the different little rectangles and we figured it out. Well, imagine if you have a soup can. Okay, so if I take a soup can and I take the label off the side of a soup can, so I'm sure that all of you at some point or another have taken a soup can and you've undone the label, right? You pull the label off because sometimes they collect Campbell's soup can labels for fundraisers and things. Well, if you undo the label around the side of a can, what shape is it? When you undo that, what do you get? You simply get a rectangle, right? So if I were to roll this piece of paper into a cylinder, so if I roll this into a cylinder, right, so we have the circle, well, what that shape started out as a what? A rectangle, right? And so I unravel it, we get the rectangle back. So a cylinder on the sides is nothing more than a rectangle. Now, we know that the height of that rectangle is the height of the cylinder. What is the length of my rectangle is formed by the circumference of the circle. So notice, that circumference going around right here, that circumference, when you undo it, gives you the length of your rectangle, right? So that's how we're going to find the surface area. If I were to do the net of a cylinder, we end up with a really long rectangle. That's our label. And then we'd have the circles for the tops and the bottoms of the soup can, right? Because it's the whole surface. So that would be the net of a cylinder. It's the top and the bottom circles and then just one long rectangle where this length is the height and this length going this direction is the circumference, which we know is 2 pi r, or pi times diameter. So we're going to do some work to get to that point. So let's take a look and do an example. So I'll leave that one up there. It'll be my example cylinder. We'll get rid of our net. Example number 1. So they tell us the height here is 9 centimeters. And we're told the radius is 3 centimeters. So I want to find the surface area of this whole thing, okay? So we have to do some work to get there, right? We can find the area of the top and the bottom, because those are just circles. Well, the area of a circle is pi r squared. So that's pi times 3 squared. 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. So we end up with 9 times pi. So we do 9 times 3.14. And we end up with 28.26. And again, we're surface area, so that's centimeters squared. Now we want to find the area of our label. You want to find the area of the rectangle going around the side, right? Well, the area of that piece is going to be the height, because remember, it's really length times width. But what's that? So this is our width, is 9. But what's that length? It's the circumference. So it's 2 times pi times our radius. So you have to do the circumference formula within the area of the rectangle formula. This will be our length, and this will be our width. So we end up with 9 times 6 pi. So we get 54 times pi. And that will give us 169.56 square centimeters. And so to find the total surface area, we're going to add those two pieces together. So we'll just do that right here inside the cylinder. So we have 28.26. We have 169.56. When we add all these things together, we end up with 197.82 square centimeters. And again, it's square centimeters because we're talking about surface area, not volume yet. We will get to volume, but right now we're just on surface area. So again, remember that this 2 times pi times 3 was 2 times pi times the radius. This is the circumference of the circle, and this was the width. So this was our length, right? And this was our width. And we broke it down into the circumference to actually find the length. All right, let's do one more of those. So this cylinder is going to be a little shorter this way. So we have a radius of 2.7 inches. And a height of 3 inches. Okay? So remember, we've defined the area of the circles. So we have two circles there. So we'll have the area is pi r squared. Well, that's going to be pi times 2.7 squared. So the area there is 7.29 times pi which equals 22.9 square inches. Now remember, this is the area of the top circle. We also need the area of the bottom circle, right? So we're going to have this 2 times when we add it all together. Well, now let's find the surface area of our label. Remember, the area of that piece is the height times the circumference, which is 2 times pi times 2.7. So all of this together, we have 3 times 2 times 2.7 times pi, and that's going to give us 50.89 square inches. And so the total surface area that we're looking at is going to be 22.9 plus 22.9 plus 50.89. So when we add all that up, we end up with 96.69 square inches for our surface area. Alright, so I'm going to show you a volume one. We're only going to do one example of volume because it's a little more straightforward, because the volume follows the same pattern as the volume of a prism. If you remember, the volume of a prism is the area of the base times the height, right? Well, the area of our base is just a circle. It's the same exact thing. So the volume is going to be the area pi r squared times the height, because you have that circle, and you have a whole bunch of layers of that circle going down. So we're going to figure that out. So let's take a look at a cylinder . And so notice that radius can go to any point on that circle. So this is 1.4 inches, and the height is 6 inches. Now again, this doesn't really represent anything, but in the problem they give us, it is a can of the Parmesan cheese. So if you guys know when you dump Parmesan cheese in your spaghetti, you kind of have that canister. Well, that's what this is supposed to represent. Obviously I don't have that picture, and I'm not about to draw that picture. So volume is simply going to be pi r squared times the height. So we have pi, we have 1.4 squared times the height, which is 6. So when we do all of this, 1.4 squared is going to give us 1.96. So we have pi times 1.96 times 6. And when we multiply all of that together, we end up with 36.95, and again it's volume, so it's cubic inches. So it's going to be very important that you're paying attention to, are we talking about an area or a surface area, and that's square inches, or we're talking about volume, so it's cubic inches, or are you talking about a perimeter, which is just inches, there is no squared or cubed. So that's as far as we're going to take that. We'll do some more examples of these in class, and we'll do some more practice with it. But for now, this volume is much simpler, so we're only going to do the one example. But just remember to keep that separate, and that with the volume is pi r squared times height, and the surface area is the areas of both the top and the bottom circles added to the area of that rectangle, or that label going around this side.